How did I completely transform my reality and rebuild my mind from the ground up, Lego block by Lego block, to create the happiest, most successful, abundant life where I can't wait to wake up each day with my brain and get to be me. I started shifting the blame from everything else going on in my reality. My nana told me on the phone that she actually had to prepare for our calls because I'll just call my family like, oh my god, guess what's happened now? And I'd had a bit of a rough time since I moved to Australia to pursue my dreams, like a very rocky road to get here. And after I hit rock bottom several times for months and months on end, I just pulled myself out, and I want to share with you what I did. So I thought of this word the other day because actually my flatmate gave me some ivermectin for parasites, and she said I've never done any kind of like parasite cleanse, but she said that sometimes when they're dying you can kind of have a psychedelic experience. And I don't know if I had them or not, but I walked out into the yard the next day and just slightly there were like slight fractals on the grass and looking out to the washing line and stuff. And I've also wanted to talk about this on here, but like you can't talk too much in depth, or I don't really know the right way to go about it. But basically, psychedelics are the reason I am who I am today. Let's just say that. But when I walked out there and I could kind of see the fractals and stuff and like the grass glowing a bit brighter than usual, I was like, I think I actually view the world like this all the time, like through the lens of that. And then I started seeing this word pop up about like ignoring the 3D or living in the 5D reality. And I was like, oh, that clicks and it makes total sense, because earlier for my birthday last year, we went down to Byron Bay and we went down to this techno rave, and we had the time of our lives. Like, we looked like celebrities. We were down an alley, like a dark alleyway, taking photos, and I don't know how like 30 people saw us. Like, you don't walk and then look down the alleyway, but like people kept coming down to take photos of us and stuff. And we just kept thinking like maybe our aura is glowing so bright it's like shining out of the alleyway. But the reason I brought up that Byron Bay trip is because we were sitting in the apartment after the gig and I was laying out on the couch, and I always laugh with my flatmates that that we're fairies and we live in a fairy house that's pink, and my flatmate is literally a fairy. Like, her face is so petite and she just is. Like, there's no other word for it. And I was thinking when I was laying back in the apartment on the couch that I just experienced like massive mindset shifts, and the success was starting to happen and things were starting to fall into place. Things that I'd imagined for a very long time and thought could still be years away were happening within months, weeks, or even days. It was wild. And I was just sitting on this couch like, I'm a fairy millionaire sitting in a palace up in the clouds with the girls, like this big stone palace, and like up in heaven, and we're so rich and beautiful. And I've noticed I've started viewing my everyday things like that. So even though we were staying in a fancy hotel, I kind of view my room like that now as well. Like, no matter what the house actually looks like, I'm like, oh, well, I live in a palace. And just like the whole concept of what I see is different. Instead of like picking out all the negative things or thinking about like what's not good enough or what I want to change, I've just made that the reality now that I see every day from the moment I open my eyes. Another thing I do is I notice when I'm driving the car, because I'm a DJ, but it took me years and years to get my name out there. I'll actually briefly explain now because it's kind of an interesting story. So my ex-partner taught me during the pandemic how to DJ, so in 2020, and my best friend was and my partner was, and I always just thought it's not my path because I want to do nutrition and I can go and support them, but I don't need to be one myself. And I was just sitting there one day and the download just came to me like, you need to be a DJ and call yourself Terminate. I didn't need to think about the name, I just knew. So I practiced for a few years, and then when I left that relationship and came to Gold Coast, I had no connections and I'm introvert and I didn't actually know how to get my foot in the scene. And I actually wondered like how long do you try before giving up? Like, do you try to get a gig for like 2 years, and if it's been that long, like then you just give up? Because you can't really call yourself a DJ if you just DJ at home. So I never used to tell people I was either, because I didn't want to seem like I'm gloating or like they think I'm trying to show off, or if I didn't fully feel confident in my skills. Like I only really started telling people even the end of last year because I would just wait for people to find out. But I was sitting in the lounge one day, and when I moved here, a friend had a different friend that was having a birthday party that was like 3.5 hours drive away. And she posted online like, oh, my friend's having a mini doof. And I asked for she sent me the address. And I was sitting there at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night by myself because no one was home. And I was like, well, you can either do your emails and go to sleep, or hop in the car and drive 3.5 hours to a party of people, to a girl's birthday who you don't know, by yourself to try and meet the people that run the bush dogs. So that's the lengths I went to, and because I'm so shy, I like showed up at their house, and it wasn't even a doof, it was just like a few people around it, like having a little bonfire, and I walked up on the lawn and she's like, oh hi, do I know you? And I'm like, hi, my name's Cassie and my friend Mel said that I could come, and like just blurted it out, and I was just so shy. So that was like, yeah, how I got my foot in the scene. It was even like going to lengths past that to even get bookings. But when it started to really blow up is I would drive in the car, and I usually always listen to loud music if I'm not listening to a podcast, and I just envision the reality, like I'm on a huge stage playing, and whenever I'm doing things like that, I'm just visualizing it as I go. We've got my dog and she's like having doggy dreams. I've just been letting things this year roll off my shoulders. So my car broke down. So I had back-to-back DJ shows pretty much every weekend, and I was in bodybuilding prep. So you're tracking everything you eat, doing all your meal prep ahead of time, hitting your gym sessions, your steps. It's full on. And then my car broke down and I didn't have one for a good 4 months. And that was the moment, like after all these years of going through the relationship stuff and things going wrong, like, oh my God, of course this would happen to me. That was the moment, I guess I just decided. The mechanic called me to give me the news, and they just told me like, yeah, your engine is fully blown and like you can't replace it. Like you can buy another engine and put it in, but the whole car is so old, the brakes need doing, everything. It's just putting money down the drain. So like it's done. Well, he said it can break down at any time, so like it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 months. So it had carked it. And in that moment I was like, well, I can either call my family like usual and be like, oh my God, guess what now? Now the car's broken and how am I going to do anything? And like, why does this always happen to me? Or you can just be like, oh yeah, cool. What are you going to do about it? And that was such a big shift. And even looking back, the fact I didn't have a car in prep and another situationship ended about that time, everything from the outside world kind of closed off. And then I could use my flatmate's car to go to the supermarket or to work or to the gym, but I didn't want to use their car to just like drive around and like go hang out with people and socialize and do that kind of thing. Like I was going to gigs to get some kind of socializing, but that basically classes as work, and they would usually come with me anyway. But having that period of solitude 10 times my life. No distractions from the outside world. What's there to do at night? Work on your goals, or work at your job, or rest, or gym, or do your meal prep. Like, fully solitude, cut off the outside world. So like, thank God the car actually broke down. And then I did it again, so I finally got the new one, and we knew the gearbox would needed to be replaced within the first few months, but it actually happened within 2 weeks, and it was the clutch. And instead of being like $2,000 or 1,600, $4,000, like $3,800. And that is more than what we paid for the car because it's a dual clutch. So instead of being like, oh, for fuck's sake, like throwing the papers in the air, like crying and like going back to bed and letting it ruin my day, like, what am I gonna do? I'm just like, oh, it's literally practice of just changing your mindset. Like, well, what are you gonna do about it? You just have to become the person that earns enough money to pay it off. You have to triple or quadruple your income like in the next month. That's all good. So to pay off that car and to be that person, what time would they be waking up in the morning? What time would oh my god, I'm like getting emotional. How would they be dressing each day? How would they be showing up for themselves? It actually like really benefits your life. And that was just before Christmas, and yeah, like got it sorted and I'm paying it off. But every day I just wake up with that mindset, like, oh well, the girl that can afford this car and make these payments and everything, like what would they be doing with their time? They would be focusing on needle moving tasks. They wouldn't be just like wasting their time with dumb emotions that don't need to take up their brain. And they would be really intentional with their energy, and they would be looking after themselves and fueling themselves with good food so they've got more energy to pour into each day. And they would have discipline, and they would be aware of mindless scrolling on their phone and spending hours going down the drain. So in a way, like, even though all that crap happened, it's like, thank God. So think about how that applies to your life. Like, whatever you're going through, what do you actually gain from that? And another example is I basically, well, not really lost my job. I discovered that because last year was my year of finding my voice and learning to stand up for myself in 2024. And like, it needed to happen at some stage, so I'm not just walked over forever. But I definitely learned, if you don't sit down and shut up like they teach you at school, yeah, bad things can happen, but also fantastic things can happen when you ask for what you want and you put your foot down and you set a boundary and actually just stand up for ethical reasons and say this isn't okay. So I kind of lost my job, but my managers like ghosted me. So I just got like taken off the roster. And even when I asked, like, oh, has this got to do with my performance, or is there something I need to improve on, like being a mature adult? And so even though these people are like in their 30s, they like deleted me from the group chat and then just like never talked to me. Oh my god, it's so funny. So kind of lost my job, or just got pushed out of it, and then got a way better job that has much better expectations on you as an individual. I'm not going to burn myself into the ground to the point I'm passing out at work because I'm trying so hard. I'm not going to be viewed as a money-making machine or a number. I'll have achievable KPIs, just like appreciated as a human being and as an individual and cared about. So even though I lost what I thought was the dream job and moved to a different one that's pretty much the same, I couldn't, if I'm going to have all this success this year, I wouldn't be able to work at the other one, burning myself into the ground and like just having these extremely unattainable goals where you're just like trying so hard every day, rushing around, trying to hit the targets, trying to prove yourself because the goalpost is up here. Like, I'm not going to be able to have the success and have the health and do that. So by switching, like, thank God I lost my job. Thank God I stood up for myself, because it actually improved the lives of other people as well when new policies had to be brought in. Another example is, I haven't talked about it much on YouTube and the podcast, but I had chronic hives, and that took up a big part of my life in 2024. And this is where the deepest work was done. And I'll put like a little layout thing on the screen. But this was like 3 weeks apart. And what I noticed is I built the person in the second picture whilst I was the person in the first picture. So when everyone is coming out of comp prep and all the girls are like, oh my God, I'm putting on a bit of body fat, and they're scared of like an Oreo or something because they'll get fat, I'm there covered head to toe in huge welts. I couldn't sleep. It completely put a halt on my whole entire life for several months. It took up all my time and all my mental space. And thank God that happened, because for the first time, I detached my worth from my exterior appearance and my looks. I learned to truly love myself, even when I would look in the mirror and I'm covered in dots every day. Wakes me up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., 5 a.m., 7 a.m., doesn't go down till 1 p.m., sometimes starts again at 7 or 8 p.m. Like, I'd have about 5 hours to be normal in the afternoon. And I would wake up. There's another related condition called angioedema, or however you say it, and it can cause swelling in your eyes and your lips and your fingers and like toes, basically. So some mornings I was waking up for work looking like I've got botched lip filler. It'll just be like just the top lip, like huge, or just the bottom. But the worst one is like when it's half of one, or like one side, so it's like half of it is protruding off your face. Or it would look like I'd gotten into a fight, because it looks like your eye is like all swollen. And I would wake up every day like, wow, you look, like, honestly believing it. Wow, you look so beautiful. You're putting on body fats. You're getting healthier. That means you've got a higher intake of nutrients because you're eating more whole foods. You've got like more, like fat on you for energy and just for general health and to support your body, because you can't stay comp lean at all times. And I would just look at myself every day and be like, wow, yeah, like you look like amazing. Even though I was confused about what was happening and trying to dig deep to the depths of the internet to find the answers and see specialists and everything, not many people can do that. Like, you would just wake up and you would be like, oh, like, this is hideous. It's disgusting. How can I go in public like this? Why is my body doing this to me? And I was just like, well, it's like something has caused it and it's asking you to get to the bottom of it. And even on New Year's Eve, that was the worst, where my face literally looked deformed from the swelling. I snapped a couple of pictures because to go and get the script at the pharmacy, I had to put on this like bandana. Like, I used to make these makeshift COVID masks during the pandemic. So I had to put on this like mask because I was like, I can't even go out. Like, I can't actually show my mouth today. Like, this is scary. And I took a picture of it. And when I was looking at it, instead of thinking like, oh my God, yeah, it's like hideous and beating myself up, and I just looked at my eyes and I was like, man, compared to all the other hard times I've had through the breakups and everything going wrong in my life, where I looked really washed out and like my soul is gone. Like, you just have empty eyes and like a pale face because you're so exhausted. There's like no life to you. I was looking at that picture like, wow, you still have life in your eyes. And even just noticing little details, like I'm still showing up for myself. Like, I held my phone and I was like looking at the little nails that match the phone case and like the little details, because I've been exploring my aesthetic. And I'm like, wow, like you've still got life in your eyes and a drive for life. And even just getting ready for the New Year's Eve gig, I was like, well, I don't actually know if I can DJ because will it go down in time? And thank God it did, basically just as I was arriving. But instead of thinking like, oh my God, like I don't know if I can go, that thought came, and then I'm like, wow, you've just been at home for months in bed and you want to go to the doof. So your face is gonna go down. It better go down because you're wetting your sponge right now and you're putting your foundation on and you're gonna need to put your lipstick on soon. So yes, it's definitely going down. Like speaking it into into existence. Like, well, yeah, well, it better because the makeup is coming on. So with all those different array of experiences I've shared, how can you start viewing the world through the 5D and start thinking, oh, thank God that happened. Oh, thank God that person set me free so I could go down this path and actually like discover who I am and create this life for myself. Because like, why would you want to be with someone that doesn't even see your worth anyway, or not have had the experiences you've had or developed into the person that you are? Oh, thank God that I don't know, this job ended, or that you got out of this different path that you're going, because then you wouldn't be where you are now. And just know when people judge you, when you start looking at the world through a 5D lens, basically you can see past everything. Well, I've become a lot more aware than I was. When people are like trying to boast and act cool and stuff, it's because they're trying to show off or get your attention or make out like they're better than you. And if people are jealous of you or trying to bring you down, like no one who is successful and busy is trying to like bring down others below them who are trying. So when people are trying to bring you down, it's because they're trying to bring you down to their level. And when they judge you, it's because there's part of you that they see that they either judge themselves for or that they have suppressed. Like if you dress in a certain way, some people might not like it because they wish that they could without worrying about what others think, or they wish they had the body for that or the confidence for that, or they might have been brought up with different family views and stuff that view that as bad, but they haven't actually debunked their own view of things. So even now, like getting pushed out of certain scenarios and circumstances, why try to stay in the room, like stay trying to fit into rooms that you're not welcome in? If it's like clear you're not welcome, instead of trying to change yourself and like be accepted or like wonder what you could do to be better to like fit in, go to a different room. I've been finding it so fun dressing up and like finding my aesthetic. Do you know someone actually said, someone actually said to me online the other day, okay, this is another great lesson. Someone replied to a Christian sticker and they said, everything you post about is such basic everyday stuff. Like you're talking about your coffee and your nails while people are out there building empires. Like grow up. And was basically just saying that, yeah, like my content is very low level and not educational or not worthwhile their read. So ways that you can practice these massive shifts that will catapult you into your ultimate reality. I was thinking about it overnight and I thought it was just hilarious at the time, because I'm like, oh, how dare I be grateful that I spilled my coffee all over the room and that was my last teaspoon of instant coffee and it was a meter up the walls and flooding the floor within seconds. Thank God that happened so that I could decide to go and treat myself at the cafe that day at the waterfront on the way to work and be able to look out at the ocean while I was waiting for the order and drink my nice long black that has proper espresso that's stronger than instant coffee anyway, and then feel in a really regulated state on the way driving to work. So I actually had a fantastic day because my coffee spilled. Like, how dare I be like excited about that? And when I thought about it overnight, I was like, yeah, like the hives actually disappeared for 10 days and then they came back. And I was thinking, if I didn't practice for that tiny little thing that happened, my coffee spilling, instead of being like, oh, for God's sakes, like, of course the morning starts like that, and running around frantically and like just being so stressed out about it. If I didn't practice with that little thing happening and turn it into a good thing, when the hives came back, it didn't freak me out. I was just like, oh, well, that's not part of my reality anymore. Like, I wonder why that is. Still calling myself beautiful. Still just like doing more tests, sorting out the specialists and diving into it deeper. But instead of thinking like, oh my God, my life is over, I'm never going to get to the bottom of this, I'm just stuck in it forever. It all starts with the small things that happen in your day. So although to that person it may seem basic and small, the stuff I'm posting about, that is part of my purpose on earth, is to remind people of the little things around them. Like, I love showing cool pink moths, or like holding cool frogs, or just cool birds, or walking the dog and videoing up in a tree because I can see like a little nest with like the little baby bird head sticking out, and just reminding people of the beauty in the world around us. I found it really fun dressing up lately, like, yeah, I am literally from another dimension. But, oh yeah, because, sorry, I'm very spaced out because I went to a BDSM techno rave and I've been working non-stop, like morning and night shifts the last few days. So, yeah, I'm a bit scattered in my brain. But I only used to wear like basic crop top and gym shorts every day. Like, I still only own 2 sets of jewelry. I've never been into fashion or like never understood style. I'm only just learning how to do my makeup better. And I don't know, I just like don't really know about that stuff or styling or clothes like this whole time. So I've never really had like an aesthetic and stuff. So I've just been exploring, and my flatmate got me this little flower headband, and I wore this cute little pixie dress today and got told I look like Pocahontas, and I was just walking around the shops like feeling just like I'm not even on planet Earth. Like, I'm the alien fairy that's like visiting, and yeah, I'm just like in this wonderland, like with my little basket and like looking at the things on the shelf. And I just really encourage you to like explore yourself and pour into yourself, and even just trying new styles and stuff can really help you embody that different character or a new person if you're really trying to evolve and call in that new reality. And I love playing dress ups. It's just so fun. Like, half the reason I think I like going to the gym is just to look good in different rave outfits. But the final piece before I wrap things up for today is discipline. So bodybuilding really, really has helped with that, and especially with the car breaking down. If none of that happened, I would not be in this reality, in this realm, or have this brain or thought processes or be who I am. But bodybuilding has really, really helped with that. But look at the discipline in your life. Even like, it starts with the small stuff. I haven't hit my training sessions this week. It's like the 3rd week. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll track food this week. Like, still haven't done it. So there's like a few things that didn't go to plan, and I've been super busy and then was super like abnormally exhausted near the end of the week, but the start of the week because of my time of month. So I was so tired. I was trying to get to work. I just had other priorities, and I was just laying here. I've like really tired and like brain dead, and I was like, I was meant to film the YouTube video tonight. My voice was going all croaky because the other things hadn't gone to plan. And I was like, nah, you're just not going to do it tonight. Like, I was laying there for like an hour, just like trying to find the energy and the drive to film because I don't often get the house to myself. And I feel like I can be more relaxed and expressive when I'm not worried about outside noises or when no one can hear me and there's less noise outside going on at nighttime. And I just like the lighting a lot better. So I'm like, oh, just give up. Like, you're just not going to do it. So I turned off the lights, got out my laptop, and I was going to watch a YouTube video. And the other girl, I was going to watch a video on detaching from situationships and people that have hurt you. Because it still pops up, honestly. But she was like cozy, sitting with her cup of coffee and a blanket on the couch. And I'm like, because I always film at my desk, and I'm like, oh, I've got to get this whole set up, and I've got to get the stool from the bench, and to fit the laptop on for my notes, I've got to like turn my washing basket upside down and like do this whole random setup, and my tripod is broken and it keeps like falling off, and the light, like, oh, it's just a mess. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to watch this video of this lady sitting all super cozy with her coffee and her blanket. So why don't I just shift it to the bed? And then I just got up and I'm like, yes, Cassie, you can do it. You didn't tick off the other things. So you can't just not tick off this as well. Just fricking do it. And then once it's done, then you can relax. So you might not hit all the targets in the week. No, I didn't hit the other things. Although I strived towards it and I tried. But what can you hit? If you can't hit your training, can you at least go for a walk? Or can you do a little workout in the lounge? Or I didn't track my food, but I at least did meal prep and I was eating those. So it was like very similar to what was meant to be on my plan, apart from a couple changes for my smoothies and stuff. So like very, very similar. And I ate like a couple extra protein bars today. So I didn't track food, but I at least meal prepped instead of like not tracking food, eating completely off plan, blowing out the calories, scoffing chocolate. Like I was still on plan. So what didn't go well for you this week and how can you change it next week? And if you can't hit the targets across all things, is there a reason? Were you more tired than usual? Did you have other priorities? Instead of like blaming the external circumstance, oh yeah, I didn't get it done, I ran out of time. It's because it wasn't my priority. It's because work was my priority. So it's like shifting the blame. Not even blame. It's just a matter of fact. Like the work was the priority and getting rest. So whatever you're blaming around you, the economy, I actually don't play into the economic crisis. Whenever I see stuff pop up online, like, oh, or even on TikTok, it'll be like a video like, things are so hard right now. How can people afford anything? And although those not those thoughts come up, sometimes I just think like more in terms of if I want to go to the chiropractor, it's like a day of work for 1 hour session at the chiropractor, but then your back gets stuffed up from being at work. So I more think about it in terms of like time for money trade-offs, like, oh wow, that doesn't make sense kind of thing. But I never play into the economic crisis because what economic crisis? Do you know how many millionaires there are right now? Do you know how many people are dropping thousands of dollars on things or investments that they value? I invested in a coach to help me map out my 2025 at the end of last year. That was a big investment, and that's because it was a priority for me. I'm not going out for brunches with my friends. I'm not going out for cocktails. I'm not spending hundreds of dollars on drinks at the pub on a Friday. I'm not buying heaps of things mindlessly. And what you're spending your money on, it shows you what your priorities are. So yes, people can afford luxury items. That's a luxury item, investing in someone to look at my life and map out my year for me. And it's actually like I've got to pay it off for 6 months. And do you know what I was thinking? oh, that's actually quite good, because even though it's expensive, that means I've got to really show up for myself for the first 6 months of the year. Like, obviously, it'll be the whole year, but I didn't really work on my business at all in 2024 because I wasn't in the place to do so. So, because this is such a stretch, that means I'm betting on myself. That means I believe in myself and in my goals and in my vision and my skills to bring it to life. So if this girl was like, oh, it's an economic crisis, I better not charge that, or like, I better go out of business, because who would pay for that when it's not food or petrol for the car? Well, people who prioritize it. So I don't even play into the economic crisis. Like, what economic crisis? There's money coming from all different directions. Someone had a really interesting point of view. She has got to come up with a lot of money and doesn't have a job. And instead of thinking like, oh, well, a job is one option, a really high paying job, and stepping into the person that can do that. But she's like, yeah, well, my parents could die at any time. Not that you're wanting that or like speaking it into existence or anything, but it's just a matter of fact. Like, you could just get an inheritance out of the blue, or such and such could happen and you get all this money coming to you. Georgie Stevenson has been, I guess, a big inspiration for me over the years, and she said she moved into her brand new house. It's like in between the beach and the forest. It's like this beautiful white mansion, like stunning. And someone came to her house one morning on a Saturday morning and knocked on the door and said, someone wants to buy your house and they want to offer you this many million. So she's like, even though she didn't want to give it up and she would rather keep the house, she said someone came to her doorstep physically to offer her millions of dollars. So many things can happen that you're not planning for, and it can, yeah, it just can come from anywhere. You just have to like be in the state of receivership and look at your beliefs on the world and yourself. So yeah, I hope that like shed some insight into living a really positive, abundant life, because it's a lot funner. But anyway, thank you so much for tuning in and joining me on the bed for this much more like relaxed, cozy talk, and use that as a lesson. Like, I want to be consistent with podcasts and YouTube this year. So it's a Saturday night at 10:58 p.m. 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. And what am I doing? I went to the rave last night. I was working all week, night shifts, morning shifts. And I'm doing a fairy photo shoot tomorrow and going to another rave because I hadn't been out for like 4 months, and then work first thing in the morning. So I could have just gone to bed, but I was like, no, you want to be consistent. You don't get the house to yourself often. Make use of this time, and then you'll be able to edit it on Tuesday. And yeah, that's just building the discipline and consistency. So use that as your lesson. Whatever it is you're putting off or you can't stay consistent in, what can you do that's even just a little bit? I was actually just going to do like a 7-minute video, and look, it turned out to be longer like always anyway, but I was like, okay, just film for 7 to 10 minutes, just like a couple of bullet points. So use that as your inspiration for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to connect with me over on Instagram, where I post daily, and TikTok I've been using a lot more as well. And I share these episodes on YouTube and podcasts. You can take your choice whether you want the audio or video version. I would love if you subscribe for future updates as well if you enjoy this kind of thing. Let me know in the comments below what you're working on at the moment or your biggest takeaway from today's episode. And thank you so much. Go out into the world and be a beautiful little fairy or your creature of choice from another realm.